Coldhearted Millionaire mistakenly enters women's restroom. What he found inside changed everything, but before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is now. Subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The office tower pierced the city sky, its glass catching the fading dusk. Inside, the boardroom was a war zone. Papers scattered, accusations sharp. Brandon Hale stood at the table's head, green eyes like flint. A failed project, millions gone, his empire cracked. Who let this happen? His voice low, venomous. Silence. Heads bowed, papers rustled. He stormed out, the door slamming like a shot. His steps rang on marble, each one rage. He shoved a door open, heedless of its label, needing escape. Women's restroom blurred past. Inside, fluorescent light hummed soft, tiles cold. A figure huddled on the floor, knees clutched, hands trembling. Worn coat, scuffed shoes, a bag spilling papers. Fury flared. "Who are you? This isn't a shelter." The woman looked up, eyes red, defiant. Rachel Monroe, barely 30, dark hair tangled, voice a quiet blade. "I was an analyst here. Finance. Fired last week." Her words pierced his anger, his fists curled. "Analyst? Then why cry on my floor?" Rachel's gaze held. "HR, led by Ellis, owes me a paycheck. They dodge, I came to beg." His laugh cut, cold, strategic. "Beg? You're trespassing." Rachel's hand gripped her bag, a faded photo peeking out. A house. Better days. "I'm no thief. I wrote the risk report, warned about the project. No one listened." Brandon froze, her words a spark in his fury's fog. The report, the failure. Could it be? The door creaked. Martha Ellis entered, small with mop and bucket. Silver hair glinted, her faded blue uniform like twilight. 68, hands calloused, they bore faint soil stains, her eyes warm as a village lantern. Her gaze lingered on Brandon, a flicker of memory in their warmth, gone as she turned to Rachel. "Evening," she said, voice a gentle stream, calming the storm. "Trouble?" Martha set the mop down. Brandon's shoulders stiffened, unaccustomed to a janitor's question. "She doesn't belong," he snapped. Martha's head tilted, motherly. "Seems she's got a story." Rachel's breath caught, defiance softening in Martha's warmth. "They fired me," she said quieter, "after my warning. The report predicted it all." Brandon's mind raced, numbers and betrayals aligning. A buried report, a silenced voice. His voice dropped, sharp. "You wrote it. Why didn't I see it?" Rachel's eyes flashed. "Ask your managers. They hid it to save face." The air thickened, truth heavy. Martha swept, deliberate, a ritual. She hummed, a tune tugging Brandon's chest. His mother, long gone. "People miss what's in front of them," she said, soft, piercing. Her eyes met Rachel's, then Brandon's, holding a secret, a shadow in dawn's light. "Listen before judging." Brandon's hand thumbed the watch's edge, a flicker of doubt. Rachel clutched her photo, her anchor. Martha's broom whispered on tiles, grounding them. The sterile restroom pulsed, alive with unspoken truths. Brandon's anger waned, a question unvoiced. Who was this janitor, seeing through him? Rachel stood, coat falling, voice firm. "I'm not invisible," she said, eyes on Brandon. "Not anymore." Martha paused, her smile faint, knowing. The moment hung, fragile as a dewdrop, poised to shift all. The office stood silent, its glass walls swallowing the city's last light. The restroom's fluorescent hum lingered, but Brandon, Rachel, and Martha had moved to a hallway where shadows stretched like fingers across marble. Rachel clutched her bag, the faded photograph of her childhood home peeking out, its edges worn as her hope. Brandon's jaw was tight, his silver watch glinting as he paced, mind churning over her words. A buried report, a failure foretold. Martha leaned on her mop, her silver hair catching the dim glow, her eyes warm but unyielding, like a lantern in a storm. "Why didn't I know?" Brandon's voice was sharp, a blade slicing through the quiet. Rachel's shoulders stiffened, her dark hair falling across her face. "I sent it up the chain. Finance buried it. They called it alarmist." Her tone held no plea, only truth, hard as the tiles beneath them. Brandon's hand thumbed the watch's edge. A reflex, his mother's voice flickering in his chest. "See people, not numbers. He shook it off, eyes narrowing. Names. Who buried it? Rachel hesitated, her gaze flicking to the photograph, and then back. Middleton. Carter, too. They said it'd scare the board. Brandon's fist clenched, betrayal sparking. Middleton, his deputy, and Carter, his finance chief, snakes in suits. He turned to storm off, but Martha's voice stopped him, soft as a village stream. Running won't dig up the truth. She stood still, mop idle, her presence a quiet anchor. Brandon spun, irritation flaring. What do you know about truth, janitor? Martha's lips curved, faint, knowing. She began to hum, a lullaby Evelyn once sang, slow and haunting, like a melody from a forgotten rice field. The sound tugged at Brandon, a memory he couldn't place. His mother's laughter, a summer long gone. Rachel's breath caught, her defiance softening, as if the tune held her too. I know folks hide what scares them, Martha said, eyes on Brandon. And you're scared now, not of money, of what you missed. Brandon's chest tightened, her words a needle through his armor. He looked at Rachel, her worn coat, her steady gaze. Not just an analyst, a voice silenced. His mind raced. Spreadsheets, boardroom lies, a failure he could have stopped. Show me the report, he said, voice low, urgent. Rachel knelt, pulling papers from her bag, hands trembling but precise. The document was creased, marked with her notes, a warning in black ink. She handed it over, her fingers brushing his, a spark of trust neither expected. He scanned the pages, numbers aligning with the disaster. Her analysis was sharp, brutal, true. His empire's wound, laid bare by a woman he'd never noticed. You wrote this alone? His tone softened, a crack in his fortress. Rachel nodded, eyes fierce. Nights, weekends. One colleague, Sarah, a junior analyst, backed me, but no one else cared. Brandon's hand tightened on the paper, guilt rising like a tide. He'd built a machine that crushed voices like hers. Martha resumed sweeping, the broom's whisper a steady pulse. Her lullaby grew softer, weaving through the silence. A pay stub slipped from Rachel's bag, landing face up, marked with red ink, a relic of her firing. Brandon's gaze caught it, and his heart lurched. His mother's garden, the one she'd tended before sickness took her. The memory hit hard, her hands in soil, her voice teaching him to see beyond himself. He bent, picking up the stub, his fingers lingering. What's this? He asked, quieter now. Rachel's voice trembled, raw. Proof they owed me. They still do. Her eyes held loss, but no shame. Brandon handed it back, their fingers brushing again, a silent bridge. Martha's lullaby stopped, her gaze settling on them, heavy with meaning. Some things stay with us, she said, even when they're gone. Her words hung, a truth held like a breath at dusk. Brandon's watch gleamed, a tether to a boy he'd buried. He looked at Rachel, then Martha, their faces lit by the hallway's dim glow. The report in his hand felt heavier than millions lost. Middleton and Carter's betrayal was clear, but another truth stirred. His own blindness, his empire's shadow. Martha's eyes met his, holding a secret deeper than her role. She knew more, saw more than her mop and uniform suggested. Rachel stood taller, her coat slipping to her elbow, defiance reborn. I told you what I know, she said, voice steady. What now? Brandon's jaw worked, no answer ready. Martha leaned on her mop, her smile faint, a shadow of wisdom. The hallway felt alive, charged with what wasn't said. The photograph, the report, the lullaby. They wove a thread, fragile as a willow's root, pulling them towards something none could name. The hallway's shadows flickered across the marble floor as Brandon clutched Rachel's report, its creased pages heavy with truth. Rachel stood firm, her worn coat draped over one arm, her dark hair framing a face. Martha swept nearby, her broom's soft scrape a steady pulse, her silver hair gleaming like moonlight on a stream. The faint scent of polish from her garden-stained gloves lingered, the air humming with the weight of betrayal. Brandon scanned the report again, numbers and warnings searing his mind. Middleton, Carter, and Ellis's names burned, his deputy, his finance chief, and the HR lead who'd buried it. Board Chair Nguyen had dismissed it too. This is airtight, he said, voice low, sharp. Why hide it? Rachel's gaze was steel. Power. Middleton, Carter, and Ellis wanted the project to push through. My report was inconvenient. Her words cut. A stone dropped into silence. Brandon's fist clenched, the paper trembling. They'll answer for this. He turned, intent on action, but a memory flickered. A woman's voice, calm, guiding, from a cluttered campus office long ago. His breath caught, the image fading. Martha's voice broke through, soft yet piercing. Truth's not just in papers, Mr. Hale. She paused, leaning on her broom, eyes warm, deep, like an ember's warmth. Brandon spun, irritation flaring. What's that supposed to mean? Martha's smile was faint, her head tilting. You're looking at numbers. Look at her. Brandon's pulse quickened, his mother's voice echoing. See people. He studied Rachel, really studied. Her tired eyes, clenched fists, the quiet strength in her stance. Not just an analyst, a mind he'd overlooked. Tell me, he said, voice softer, urgent. The whole story. Rachel exhaled, her breath resolute. I trained in risk analysis, taught myself the gaps others missed. I worked late, cross-checked data, saw the risks. The project was a house of cards, over budget, unstable. I flagged it, sent it to Middleton. Carter's emails mocked it, called me overzealous. Ellis signed off on my firing. Next week I was out. Her voice cracked, not with weakness, but fury. They erased me, but the numbers don't lie. Brandon's jaw worked, the report shaking in his hand. Her brilliance buried, his empire blind. Martha moved closer, setting her broom aside, her steps deliberate. She polished a glass door, the cloth's rhythm steady. Seeing people's hard, she said almost to herself, takes practice. Numbers are easier. Her words landed like a pebble in a pond, rippling through Brandon's defenses. He recalled his mother's hands, teaching him to listen, to care. The memory stung, sharp. Rachel's bag slipped, spilling papers. A pay stub, a termination notice. She knelt, gathering them, her fingers brushing her photograph. Brandon crouched, helping, their hands nearly touching. The act felt human, foreign. You deserved better, he said, voice low, raw. Rachel's eyes met his, fierce but searching. I deserve to be heard. Martha's polishing slowed, her gaze settling on them. Heavy with meaning. The glass door gleamed, reflecting their faces. Brandon's taut, Rachel's defiant, Martha's knowing. You weren't always like this, Martha said, eyes on Brandon, her voice a quiet tide. Used to ask questions, about hearts, not profits. The words hit like a gust, stirring that campus memory again. A troubled teen, a woman's steady voice. Martha? His heart raced, the hallway shrinking, the truth reshaping Rachel in his eyes. Not just a worker, a seer, a voice his empire silenced. And Martha, no mere janitor, a witness to his past, his mother's hope. Rachel stood, papers clutched, her voice steady. I gave you the truth. What's next? Brandon's mind spun. Middleton, Carter, and Ellis's betrayal. Rachel's erasure, his own failure to see. The report wasn't just numbers, it was her life, her fight. He looked at Martha, her eyes holding a truth he couldn't name, like a face seen anew in dawn's hush. I'll find out, he said, voice firm, a vow to her, to himself. Martha resumed polishing, her cloth whispering against glass. The hallway pulsed, alive with what wasn't said. Rachel's defiance, Brandon's guilt, Martha's wisdom. They wove a thread, fragile as a willow's sigh. The report in his hand felt like a map, not to prophets, but to something lost. Middleton, Carter, and their allies hadn't just buried a report. They'd buried trust, hers and his. The glass door gleamed, reflecting a man he barely recognized, poised on the edge of change. The office tower slept under a starless sky, a mirror to the city's restless pulse. Days had passed since the hallway's truths, but Brandon's mind churned, Rachel's report a weight in his thoughts. Middleton, Carter, and Ellis's betrayal gnawed, a splinter in his empire's heart. He moved through the building's sterile corridors, his steps clipped, silver watch glinting like a faint beacon. His mother's voice whispered, see people, but doubt clung like damp air. Rachel and Sarah were with HR, finalizing her role, so he sought answers not from papers, but from her. The basement closet, tucked behind humming machinery, smelled of polish and dust. Brandon pushed the door open, the fluorescent buzz softening as he stepped inside. Martha Ellis stood there, arranging wildflowers in a cracked vase, her silver hair a halo under the dim light. Her faded blue uniform hung loose, but her hands moved with quiet grace, each bloom placed like a prayer. She didn't startle. her eyes lifting to meet his, warm as dusk's glow, seeing through his tailored suit to the boy beneath. "Mr. Hale," she said, voice soft, a breeze through reeds. "Lost your way again?" Her smile was faint, teasing, but her gaze held weight. Brandon's jaw tightened, unaccustomed to such ease from a janitor. "I'm not lost," he snapped, then softened, his hand thumbing the watch's edge. "I need to talk about Rachel." Martha's fingers paused, a daisy trembling in her grip. She set it down, deliberate, and turned, her presence filling the cramped space. "Rachel's got a gift," Martha said, wiping her hands on a cloth. "You saw it in that report. Why are you here, not with her?" Brandon's chest tightened, her directness a blade through his defenses. "I want her back, not as an analyst, something more. I'll propose her as a strategist to the board, but I need to know I'm not wrong." His voice was low, urgent, a strategist seeking certainty. Martha's eyes narrowed, studying him, like a mother weighing a child's heart. She stepped closer, the vase's flowers catching the light, yellow and white, fragile as hope. "You're not wrong," she said, "but you're scared, not of her, of what she makes you see." Brandon's breath caught, her words stirring a memory. His mother, Evelyn, her hands in soil, teaching him to care. He imagined a place to teach what Evelyn knew, empathy, not ambition. Martha's gaze deepened, and she spoke again, softer. "I knew your mother, Brandon. Taught her at the university. She believed in second chances. Her garden, where she planted these blooms, still grows behind this tower, like I believe in Rachel." The air shifted, heavy with revelation. Brandon's hand froze, his brow furrowed. Evelyn, a student? Martha, her teacher? The garden, Evelyn's? The closet seemed to shrink, the flowers' scent sharp, grounding. "She planted there?" His voice was raw, a boy's question. Martha nodded, her smile tinged with grief. "Brightest soul I ever taught. She brought you to me once, you know. Troubled boy, full of questions. You've forgotten how to ask. But your wisdom, Martha, could guide more than me." His heart raced, memories flickering. His teenage anger, a campus office, a woman's calm voice. Martha. The truth hit like a gust, bending his heart's path. Rachel wasn't just a worker. She was a chance to right his blindness, to honor his mother's hope. He swallowed, voice unsteady. "What do I do?" Martha's hand brushed a rose, her answer simple. "Give Rachel her voice, and listen to your own." He nodded, a vow forming. The closet burned alive, its walls pulsing with meaning. He saw Rachel's defiance, her buried report, her fearless gaze. His empire's shadow had crushed her, but she'd risen. And Martha, no mere janitor, was a bridge to his past, her garden, Evelyn's memory, a living call to change. "I'll bring her back, as a strategist. She deserves it." Martha turned back, arranging another bloom, her movements a ritual. "Deserving's not enough," she said, voice low. "You've got to see her." The words bloomed like a whispered hope, rippling through his resolve. He hadn't known, hadn't seen until now. He stepped toward the door, his suit sharp, his heart full. "Thang," he said, raw. Martha's smile was faint, her eyes a knowing depth. The closet hummed, charged with what wasn't said. Rachel's chance, Evelyn's memory, Martha's strength, they wove a thread. Brandon lingered, the garden's blooms vivid in his mind, Evelyn's hands guiding his own, to a new path, ready to lead him home. The marble lobby of Hale Dynamics gleamed under a gray dawn, reflecting a city stirring to life. Weeks had passed since the closet's quiet truths, and the company buzzed with change. Rachel Monroe strode through, her blazer sharp, dark hair pulled back, eyes fierce with purpose. Reinstated as a strategist, she clutched a tablet, her steps firm. She glanced at her photograph in her bag, defiance yielding to cautious hope, a fragile trust stirring. Brandon Hale stood at his office window above, suit crisp but shoulders softer. He paused, Rachel's tablet glowing below, a mirror to his own lost curiosity. His silver watch caught the light, a flicker of his mother's memory. Change felt fragile, like a bloom in a storm. Rachel's desk in the strategy wing, once Middleton's domain, was a hub of ideas. Her reports, now valued, shaped boardroom debates. Sarah, a junior analyst and her early ally, nodded from a nearby desk, her support now visible. Colleagues watched, some wary, others awed by Rachel's precision. Nguyen praised Rachel's work, a shift in the board's tone. She moved with quiet resolve, her voice slicing through jargon, ideas honed by unseen nights. Whispers of her firing lingered, but she ignored them, her focus a shield. Brandon watched, the weight of Rachel's return a stone in his chest. He'd fired Middleton, launched an audit that exposed Carter's emails and Ellis's HR policies. Both hid Rachel's warnings, a trail of betrayal. Carter was gone, Ellis resigned, her exit clearing Rachel's paycheck, shaking the empire's core. Brandon drafted new policies to amplify voices, but guilt gnawed. His blindness had crushed her and others. His mother's voice echoed, "See people." And he tried, Rachel's resilience a reflection of his buried heart. His hand touched his collar, the boy he'd been stirring with questions he dared not voice. Martha Ellis swept the lobby, her silver hair glinting under fluorescent hum. Her faded blue uniform was unchanged, but her presence carried weight. She paused near Rachel's desk, setting down her broom, and offered a smile, warm as a lantern's glow. "You're shining, child," she said, voice soft, a stream over stones. Rachel's lips twitched, warmth breaking her guard. "I'm trying," she replied, fingers brushing her tablet. Martha's hand touched a flower pin on her uniform, a quiet gesture sealing their bond, like hands clasped over a shared wound. Brandon descended, steps quick, drawn to the lobby's pulse. He saw them, Rachel poised, Martha steady, and felt change tighten. He approached, voice low. "Rachel, your projections. They're sharp. The board's listening." Her gaze met his, fierce but searching. "Good. They should have listened sooner." The jab landed, her tone softening, a crack in her armor. Brandon nodded. "They will now." Martha resumed sweeping, her broom's whisper grounding the moment. Rachel's hand slipped to her bag, the photograph's edge peeking out. "I saw the audit," she said, voice steady. "Carter's emails, Ellis's policies. Why dig so deep?" Brandon's lips pressed, the question piercing. "Because I missed you. Your voice. Others too." The words hung, raw, a confession. Rachel's eyes widened, then softened, a bridge forming. Martha's gaze settled on them, heavy with meaning. "Seeing's a start," she said, her cloth polishing, a stone's sheen nearby. "But it digs up old wounds." Her words struck Brandon, a memory flashing. His teenage self, angry, lost, counseled by her steady voice. Martha, his mother's guide, his own. The rift yawned wider. He'd built a machine that silenced hearts, his included. The stone gleamed, reflecting their faces. Rachel's resolute, Brandon's taut, Martha's knowing. Rachel's tablet buzzed, a report due. She hesitated, then spoke, voice low. "I'm here now, but I need to trust this." Her eyes searched his, a plea beneath the steel. Brandon swallowed, nodding. "You will." The promise felt heavy, a vow to her, to himself. Martha's cloth slowed, the lobby pulsing with unspoken truce. Sarah called Rachel away, their steps purposeful. Brandon watched, Rachel's blazer a stark contrast to the coat she'd worn, weeping on the restroom floor. Martha leaned on her broom, her smile faint, a shadow of wisdom. "She's a spark," she said, eyes on Brandon. "Don't let it flicker." The words landed, a pebble in a pond, rippling through his fear. His heart, hardened by ambition, cracked open by her, by Rachel, by memory. Brandon's gaze hardened, the past await. Rachel's rise sealed one wound, her erasure undone, but unveiled a deeper rift like a river's bend. His own loss, the boy who'd cared, buried under ambition. Martha's eyes met his, holding a truth deeper than her role. The lobby hummed, charged with what wasn't said. Rachel's resolve, his resolve, Martha's quiet call, they wove a thread, fragile as a dawn's breath, pulling him toward a reckoning he couldn't yet name. The rooftop of Hail Dynamics was a concrete island above the city. It sprawled dim beneath a bruised sky. The air carried the scent of rain and earth, sharp and heavy, mingling with the distant hum of traffic. A single sodium lamp cast a faint glow over a bench where Martha Ellis sat, her silver hair shimmering like dew on grass. Her faded blue uniform was tucked neatly, her calloused fingers tracing a wildflower plucked from her garden behind the tower. Brandon Hale pushed through the rooftop door, his suit sharp but his steps hesitant. He'd come seeking Martha, driven by a need sparked in the lobby days ago. Rachel's challenge to trust, her searching eyes had pushed him to reread her latest report. Its call to prioritize people over profit, echoing Evelyn's care. Her nod in the lobby, trusting his vow, echoed in his heart. Middleton and Carter's betrayal taught him to listen. He'd sketched a center for Evelyn's values, a fragile plan born from her words to reshape the company's culture. That report lingered, a call to the boy he'd been. Martha's eyes lifted, warm as a dusk's glow, and she nodded to the bench. "Sit, Mr. Hale," she said, voice soft, a stream over stones. "You look like a man chasing shadows." Brandon sat, the bench cold, its rough grain pressing through his slacks. His jaw was tight, green eyes restless, scanning the skyline's bruise. The city smelled of asphalt and rain, grounding him in the moment. "I'm not chasing," he said, voice low, sharp. "I'm fixing things. Rachel's back. The audit's cleaning house. What else is there?" Martha's smile was faint, her fingers turning the flower, its yellow petals fragile as hope. "Fixing's easy," she said. "Seeing's hard. You're still blind to what matters." Her words cut, a blade through his armor. He turned, irritation flaring. "Blind? I gave Rachel her voice. I'm tearing down the lies." Martha's gaze held his, unyielding, her eyes deep as a well. "You gave her a title," she said, "but you're scared to give yourself truth." She paused, the flower still in her hands. "I knew your mama, Evelyn, my student, my friend. She brought you to me, a boy full of anger, asking why the world hurt. You've forgotten those questions." Brandon's chest tightened, the past flooding in, his teenage self, lost in a university office. Martha's voice steady, guiding. His pulse quickened, the memory sharp as the rooftops' rain-scented air. "You counseled me," he said, voice raw, a boy's confession. "I didn't know it was you." Martha nodded, her smile tinged with grief. "You were curious then, about hearts, not profits. Evelyn believed you'd carry that." "What happened, Brandon?" The question landed like a stone in a pond, rippling through his defenses. He stood pacing, the rooftop's edge stark against the sky's bruise. The city's pulse faded, replaced by the rustle of wind through distant trees. "Life happened," he snapped, voice cracking. "She died. I had to survive. Build something. I did." His hand clenched, a silent rebuke. Martha set the flower on the bench, her movements deliberate, a ritual. "You built a cage," she said, voice soft but piercing. "Money's easy. Trust is heavy. You're scared to feel, scared to lose like you lost her." Brandon stopped, his breath hitching. The city blurred, his mother's face rising, her hands in soil, her laughter, her lessons. Rachel's report flashed in his mind, its call to empathy a mirror to Evelyn's hope. "I can't," he said, voice low, trembling. "Feeling weakens me. I'll break." Martha stood, small but unbowed, her presence a quiet tide. She stepped closer, the flower's scent faint between them. "You're already broken," she said, eyes warm, unflinching. "But broken things grow, like my garden, like Rachel, like you if you let it." Her words struck, a gentle reckoning. Brandon's shoulders sagged, the strategist's mask slipping. He saw Rachel's resolve, her report, her photograph of a lost home. He saw his company's weight, his own fear of vulnerability. Martha's garden, her flowers, her steady voice. They were a path he hadn't sought, leading to a home he didn't know he needed. "I wanted control," he said, voice raw, a confession. "But I'm losing it. Rachel, it's more than I planned." Martha's hand rested on his arm, light as a leaf, grounding. "You don't plan a heart," she said. "You listen to it." Her eyes held his, a bridge to the boy he'd been, to Evelyn's hope. The rooftop hummed, charged with unspoken bonds. The flower on the bench glowed, a spark of her garden tied to his mother, to him. He swallowed, voice unsteady. "What do I do?" Martha's smile was faint, knowing. "Keep seeing. Rachel, yourself, the world. It's enough." Rain's first drops pattered on the concrete, cool against his skin. Brandon's mind spun, the audit's numbers fading, replaced by faces. Rachel's, Evelyn's, his own, reflected in Martha's gaze. He'd sought control, power, but found connection, fragile as a willow's root. Martha's role, no mere janitor, was a guide, her wisdom a light through his fog. He nodded, a vow forming not to his empire, but to the heart he'd buried, to the center he'd sketched for Evelyn's values. Martha picked up the flower, tucking it into her pocket, her steps slow as she moved toward the door. "Rain's coming," she said, voice soft. "Go slow, Brandon. You'll find your way." She paused, her eyes meeting his, holding a truth deeper than words, like a path leading to an unexpected home. The rooftop pulsed, rain's whisper blending with the wind. Rachel's rise, Evelyn's memory, Martha's quiet call. They wove a thread, pulling him towards something new. Brandon stood alone, rain wetting his suit, the past heavy with meaning. The bench, the flowers' absence, the city below. They spoke of loss, but also growth. He saw Rachel's tablet, her mind shaping his empire. He saw Martha's garden, its blooms rooted in pain, thriving still. And he saw himself, not the CEO, but the boy who'd asked why, who'd cared. The reckoning was gentle but profound. What he'd sought wasn't control, but connection, a truth found in the quiet of this rooftop, under Martha's gaze. The rain fell harder, washing the city clean. Brandon's lips pressed, his mother's voice clear. See people. He turned, steps steady, purpose clear. Rachel needed trust, not just a title. His empire needed heart, not just numbers. And he needed to face his fear, to grow through the cracks Martha had shown him. The rooftop door creaked shut, the lamp's glow fading, but the thread remained, strong as a willow's root, leading him forward. The office tower stood quiet under a tender dawn, its glass soft with the city's first light. Hail dynamics hummed with new purpose, the air lighter, cleansed by weeks of truth. Brandon Hale walked the marble lobby, his suit less rigid, green eyes softer, catching the gleam of his silver watch. Now a steady pulse. Rachel Monroe moved through the strategy wing, her blazer sharp, tablet alive with plans, dark hair catching the sun. Her steps were sure, her voice shaping the empire's future. Her new salary securing a small apartment, a step toward home, where her framed photograph hung, a promise kept. Sarah, her junior analyst ally, joined her team, their shared resolve a quiet strength. Martha Ellis swept nearby, her silver hair glowing, her faded blue uniform a badge of dignity. The boardroom, once a battlefield, held a new energy. Brandon stood at its head, not commanding but inviting. Executives leaned forward, Rachel among them, her latest report open, ethical strategies, human-first leadership. She spoke, her words clear, eyes fierce yet warm, no longer invisible. Brandon nodded, a faint smile breaking his taut face. "This is the way forward," he said, voice low, resolute. Rachel's gaze met his, a bridge built on trust earned. New leaders replacing Carter and Ellis nodded. Rachel's voice guiding reform. Policies now ensured no voice was buried, a legacy undone where Brandon honored Evelyn by erasing Carter's shadow. Nguyen championed the center, his support sealing the shift. Outside, Martha paused her sweeping, leaning on her broom, her eyes warm as a lantern's glow. She watched Rachel through the glass, a spark like a dawn's ray. Brandon caught her gaze, gratitude weaving through the moment. Days ago, he'd announced the Evelyn Hale Center for Human Leadership, its seed planted in his notes from Rachel's reports and Martha's words, named for his mother to train young minds in empathy, not just profit. Martha, its honorary chair, would mentor, her wisdom no longer hidden behind a mop. Her smile was faint, a knowing spark. Later, Brandon found Martha in her garden behind the tower, its wildflowers swaying in the breeze. She knelt, hands in soil, planting a yellow bloom, fragile, rooted in pain yet thriving. He approached, steps slow, the leaves rustled, drowning the city's hum. "Martha," he said, voice soft, raw. She looked up, silver hair catching the light, eyes deep as twilight's depth. "You're early," she teased, patting the soil. He knelt beside her, suit forgotten, hands hesitant but willing. Their fingers brushed as they pressed earth around the bloom, a shared act, profound in its simplicity. "This is for her, isn't it?" he asked, meaning Evelyn. The garden, the center. Martha nodded, her smile tinged with grief. "For her, for you, for all who've lost their way." Her words landed, a breath of understanding, like hands clasped in silence. Brandon's watch glinted, his mother's lessons alive in the soil, in Rachel's warmth, in Martha's gaze. Healing wasn't complete, guilt lingered, his empire's renewal bore scars, but it was shared, a dawn breaking over his heart. He saw Rachel's rise, her photograph now a beacon of hope. He saw Martha's flowers blooming through cracks like his fractured soul. And he saw himself, not just a CEO, but a man learning to care. Martha stood, brushing dirt from her hands, her uniform soft in the light. "Keep planting," she said, voice a whisper of leaves. It's enough. Brandon rose, the bloom steady, its petals a promise. The garden pulsed, alive with unspoken bonds. Evelyn's hope, Rachel's strength, Martha's wisdom. Rachel appeared at the garden's edge, tablet tucked away, her smile rare but real. "Board's waiting," she said, eyes on Brandon, then Martha. "You coming?" Brandon nodded, the past a root, not a wound. Martha's gaze held them, a blessing, like a breeze over rice fields. They walked back, steps quick, purpose shared, the bloom swaying, fragile yet strong. The tower loomed, its glass warm. The Evelyn Hale Center sign gleamed, a beacon for new beginnings. Brandon's heart beat steady, Rachel's voice echoed, Martha's flowers bloomed in his chest. Healing was incomplete, but enough, a breath of peace, like dawn's light spilling over a quiet world. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that hope can be found in the most surprising moments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heartwarming Love Story. We bring you stories that touch the soul, renew your belief in kindness, and highlight what's truly important in life.